It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this inaugural function of the three-day exhibition on mountains organized by the SIS High School as part of its annual academic calendar. The title of the exhibition is Giri Mahotsav. This blessed land of ours has a culture which is indeed very unique. A culture that allows us to revere, worship all features of nature, the Panchabhutas of nature itself, be it water, air, fire, earth, and the sky, and as an extension thereof, the rivers, the mountains, the animals, and all planets, and every feature on the earth. This worship of ours is just not reverence, regard, and rituals, but travels much, much beyond that into an utsav. Utsav means celebrations. Therefore, we celebrate, as we celebrate life, we celebrate nature itself. Our lives are interwoven so intimately and intricately with nature that we adopt nature in everything that we do. Even we adopt the names of nature into our kith and kin. Memories are not fickle that not long ago we had a president of a republic who was called Dr. Giri, Dr. Varahagiri Venkatagiri. Have you ever stood before a mountain and wondered as to how it has been formed? And why is it there at the place where it is? Mountains are formed by a process which takes millions of years. Mountains are essentially formed. Larger sections of the mountains all over the world have essentially formed when the tectonic plates of the Earth's surface crash. The amount of thermal energy that is generated during this crash and the plates fall all across the Earth, as the process of cooling takes place, they become the mountains. 25 million years ago, the Indian Ocean area crashed into Asia and the Himalayan range was formed. And are you aware that each day these mountains, like any other mountains, are growing? And Mount Everest grows by 4 millimeters every day, even today. That means the process of cooling has never been complete, that it goes on and on and on. Another way the mountains are formed is along the fault lines. When a portion of the earth gets lifted up and then gets enjoined like an angle, the portion beneath is filled with all the materials of the earth and the top portion becomes the mountain. The Sierra Nevada mountains with the California range are the best example of these type of mountains. When the magma underneath the earth pushes itself onto the earth and does not crash, it comes onto the surface of the earth and starts the process of cooling for itself. After millions of years of cooling, you will find that the block that is formed is a hard-like substance, like granite, and the forces of nature drift away the soft rocks that are above it, and what you get is dome-shaped mountains. Man has always been credited with rivulets, little streams of water, even cliffs, but certainly not mountains and rivers. These are indeed a gift of nature to mankind. But man is an irresponsible creature. He has never looked into what he does and realizes it too late in the day. He continues to pollute the rivers. He continues to blast the mountains. He continues to cut the forests because of his present-day needs, unmindful of the needs of the generation that has to follow. And when it is so much polluted in the earth, he looks up to the North Pole or up the Himalayas for the pristine purity of the atmosphere that might be present over there. But the amount of toxins that have been transferred to these mountains have also made it no less polluted than that of planet Earth. And the radiation impact of the mountains transfers the sullen effect on to the earth itself. Very recently, the slopes of the Himalayas were cleaned up under a program of awareness by children, by people, mountaineers. 8 tons of garbage were recovered. And these included crashes of an helicopter, parts of all the refuse that people drop, including the mountaineers. And out of these were made pieces of art and sculpture to sustain and begin a campaign against littering on the mountains. Life is a pact between the living, the dead, and the unborn. People who ignore history, those generations have neither passed, nor do they have anything to look for in future. It is only that we live the present by drawing lessons from the past and hope for better things in future, taking the experience of the present, that can take any one of us forward. The ocean is rising, warming. The ozone impact has a dastardly impact on the economy. It brings onto the earth, raises the earth temperature, but man is blissfully unaware of each of these things. Ganga is the most polluted river at this point of time. We continue unmindful of the fact that these are for eternity for us, but they are not for eternity for us. We need to sustain a campaign, need to readjust ourselves, have a harmonious living with nature if we were to draw the benefits of all these nature and the great creations that nature has given to us to live better in this planet. But that's not the case as we try to do. The Time magazine, in its May, I think it's the May issue, had a cover story and the lead story. The cover and the lead both are generally the same. It called this generation of ours, me generation. That's true. It's all me. A generation. And the New York Times, just 1 week before that, I think that was 14th. I think it was 14th of May, if I take it correctly. It was on that day the New York Times reported that the suicide rates among a class of people in that vulnerable youth is 30%, and the boomer section of the society is 50%. Atmospheric levels of carbon, it was reported, have reached 400 ppm, the highest ever on the planet Earth at any point of time in recorded history. And yet, nothing is done by us to sustain a momentum, to purify ourselves so that we can live better. We celebrated the silver. The whole problem with human beings is we look for things which are not with us. When it is summer, we look up for copious rains to come. And when rain pours, we get so bored that we start looking for winter. And when winter comes, we are looking for spring. P.B. Shelley, that remarkable English poet, once said, "Oh winds, if it is winter, this spring is not far behind." So we live on hope, on optimism, an optimism that makes us believe that things will take care of themselves, which is not true. There is need for human endeavor to sustain the environment so that we can live together, and it would not happen by itself. In the month of July 2013, the SIES College of Commerce and Economics celebrated its Silver Jubilee with the theme, Scaling New Peaks. We also celebrated the 60 years of Mount Everest, that incredible feat of mankind to have conquered this mountain. For centuries together, times immemorial, these mountains all over the world, no exception, were believed to be sacred. They were believed to be the abode of gods. Therefore, and as far as Mount Everest is concerned, the Nepalis used to call it a Sagarmatha, and the Tibetans on the side of Tibet used to call it a Shambhalanga. So it was a sacrilege to tread onto the mountains. Therefore, the question of climbing on the mountains did not arise at all. But man's incredible consumption for knowing things which are beyond him, that he doesn't understand easily, that human spirit that is behind him, that endeavor that he puts in to know the unknown, would not have this all. And therefore, the superstition fell at the altar of man's indescribable energy to find out new things. For 60 million years, the mountain stood in stony silence, occasionally disturbed by the gush and the gale winds, the carta, the avalanche, the uncertain avalanche that would come. But that is all. But the last 60 years, things have changed all through as far as the mountains are concerned. On the 29th of May 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay climbed the summit, reached the top of the mountain, and proclaimed to the world that they have conquered Mount Everest. As Sir Edmund Hillary rightly said, it is just not conquering the summit, it is conquering ourselves. From then onwards, it has been an exceptional, unseen human spirit that has guided mountains all over the world, all the 7 summits that are exhibited over here, but more particularly Mount Everest. Be it a completely blind man, be it a paraplegic, be it an amputee like Arunima Sinha from India who claimed it, or a boy at the age of 13 from USA, Romerio, who claimed the mountains, not one, all the 7 summits. Be it an 80-year-old Japanese who scaled the peak. These have been cases of exceptional spirit of mind over matter. So mountains are of great relevance and importance to humankind. It's a great inspiration to humankind as far as the mountains are concerned. This exhibition on mountains that has been organized by the school captures it all. Be it the science of mountains, be it the art of mountains, be it the religion of mountains, the philosophy of mountains, the geography of mountains, the history of mountains, be it the adventure sports or even those minimal trekking to understand the medicinal herbs on the mountains. You have it all in this exhibition. The purpose of an exhibition like this is to sensitize young minds, is to ignite their passion, to ignite their understanding, to make them feel that they should be one with nature. Ultimately, unless there is sustained development of the ecology, there is no progress for mankind. And this can never be taught at a later age. It is only when the children are young in the formative years, if we were to ingrain in them the needs of life, then it's possible that in the later years, this planet will be a better place to live. And if this were to inspire the children to look to adventure and then summit the mountains, like those children from the St. Lawrence School, Kasauli, who came down here on the 29th of July, and all those children were honored by our society for claiming Mount Everest. Nothing is impossible. So the spirit of the mountains is beckoning all. It is beckoning these young children to come and experience the mountains. And there is no better example than nature for everything that you want in life. The greatest giver on the earth is the mountain. Pibandina nadya swayameva nabba swayamna kadanti falani vriksha naham kalu varivaha paropakaraya sadam vibhutaya. Imagine if the rivers were to drink all the water that they are giving it to you, or the trees were to take away the fruits that they are bearing for themselves. Still worse, if the clouds were to take away the seeds that they rear from where the rainfall comes to you, then you will have nothing of it. That's why the wealth of the noble is for the benefit of all. Kalidasa in Raghuvamsa, speaking about the Himalayas, says, Yasti Uttarasyam Diso Nagadi Raja, Himalaya Nami Nagadi Raja. And he goes further to say, Yam Prithvyam Manadandaha. This is the benchmark for human being. For any endeavor of human activity has to be compared to Everest, he says. It is the duty of this generation not to dilute those standards. And if we were to dilute those standards, we leave no mark for ourselves, except the remark that this generation was unworthy of even being remembered, leave alone slipping into the archives of history as a generation which has been most ungrateful. We owe it to our forefathers to hold in trust all that they have given unto us, including the nature that they gave unto us, in that pristine purity with which they gave it to us. We owe it to the generation next not to destroy their inheritance, given to them in no less than the way we received it from our forefathers, albeit if it can be better than what they give, it would be good for the world itself. This is the responsibility of every generation, and this generation of ours is no exception. The purpose of this exhibition is to sensitize our generation to this need of time. We are beholden to our Governor Sri K. Shankar Narayanan for his gracious presence here today. Constitutional authority, in the climate in which we are seeing, most of them shirk going to schools in the name of not being relevant. But here is a governor who mixes with all sections of the society, all hues and shades. He understands the pulse of the people in the state and gives his sagacious wisdom and counsel to the state in his governance. How much they take is a different issue. But here is a proactive governor who does not mind reaching out to young children, reaching out to philosophers, reaching out for fine arts, reaching out for anything in life. He has made his Rajbhavan a very friendly place. And more than anything, he has made anyone believe that the governor is available to them if the cost is worth it. We thank you, sir, for your gracious presence. And I am sure his inspiration will allow the children to believe that mountains do have a great role in our lives. Not just the mountains, all elements of nature. 2 years before, on the 29th of November 2012, we had that mega exhibition on water, Jalameva Jeevanam. And I'm sure it sensitized minds. Young minds today, if you see taps being switched off and not when they are brushing, allow water to go on, I think one of the small purposes has been served. Swami Chimayananda once said, our actions of today are the destiny of tomorrow. However symbolic this function be, it is a very humble step to shape our destiny. Thank you and God bless us all.